Hey watch friends, we recently checked out the Tusenö Shellback, and today I'm super excited to explore this latest model, the Windseeker, with you all. This is one, as I mentioned in that video, I was excited to check out, and now I'm glad to be bringing it to you. First, in case you missed it, I did already feature an unboxing with this. I do encourage you to check it out even if you saw the Shellback. I do have that link down in the description. But that being said, the packaging on this, they're actually shipping it in a very nice 3-watch roll. So again, I do encourage you to go back and check that out. Additionally, I do want to mention this one was loaned into the channel for review, so I want to be upfront about that. As far as the basic specifications, this comes standard with a 2-year warranty, just as the Shellback did. The actual case size is coming in at 38.9 millimeters, measured roughly from the 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. The bezel itself, as you can see here, is flush, so that shares the same measurement as well. The lugs are a nice versatile 20 millimeters. The lug-to-lug is a wrist versatile 47.1 millimeters, so as we'll see, it works on pretty much every wrist size out there. And as you, in case you caught that unboxing video, this comes with links to fit huge wrists out there. I took out a huge number and almost could make another bracelet out of that. The thickness on this is coming in at 10.6 millimeters overall thickness, and that includes this flat sapphire crystal, which does have inner AR coating. The movement. This one is beating away with a Sellita SW200-1, so a nice well-regarded movement, and it earns the moniker of that Swiss made down there. The water resistance is coming with a versatile 100 meters or 10 atmospheres, and I say versatile for the style. This is kind of a go anywhere, do anything sports style watch, and I think that's plenty sufficient for those purposes. The weight. This is actually very reasonable. Sized my 6.5-inch wrist, this is only coming in at 125.9 grams. Really not too bad at all. It's enough that you know that you have it on wrist without weighing you down or feeling heavy, and I think it's really in fitting with the style of this watch. So now that we have the basic specs out of the way, let's go ahead and take a deeper dive look and get a better feel for this as far as what it's like to live with and look at indoor, outdoor, etc. for footage. First, for the colors. This comes in 3 color variants. There's the black that we're looking at today. There's additionally a silver version, which really shifts quite a lot. Sometimes it looks more of like a grayish coloration, sometimes it looks more of an almost white. And then there's a blue version as well. Again, a lot of color shift and range to that. As of time of publishing, that blue unfortunately is already sold out. However, I believe they will be doing a restock as well. What you're going to notice when you dive into each of these watches, the very first thing that captures your attention is those subtly curved, inlaid, milled marks that are somewhat reminiscent of like a teak, which is the ship, hence Windseeker, inspired for the namesake there. But what is harder to pick up, especially on this black version, is it does actually have a very subtle sunburst that's applied as well. You'll see it in the light play as you move it around, and it's one of those things that's just such an elegant and artful touch, especially in complemented or contrasting against those mill marks. And I really love that accent in that aspect. This does have printing at both the 12 o'clock as well as the 6 o'clock position. At the 12 o'clock position, you can see the name Tusenö, and then down at the 6 o'clock position, you can see the name Windseeker. Both of those are broken up nicely in the overall milled pattern. At the 6 o'clock position, you do have a date window, and as you can see, it is not color matched. Additionally, this does have other printing, specifically out on the perimeter. You can see it does have a nice chapter ring, so you can get precision legibility. We already saw the Swiss made down at the 6 o'clock. As you move out to the far edge, you can see this does have what almost looks like an integrated one-piece rehot. And that's a really cool accent touch because they went with a stainless steel finish for that as well, so it really looks like it just melds perfectly into the case. Additionally, it's a lot harder to pick up, but it does have in your 5-minute increments your numerals that are milled into that as well. So a really cool touch there. As for the hardware on this is what I would describe as being a sword-type handset. It is heavily polished and very nicely done. Additionally, it does have a Dauphine crease down the middle, which gives that awesome faceted light play that you get, and I really think complements nicely, especially against this black dial as you pick up the different light reflections off of that. So really nice touch. All of these are going to have an arrow tip for your second hand, and then they do have an accent color. In this particular instance, we're looking at yellow, which is in keeping with the 6 o'clock Windseeker text as well. As far as the markers themselves, all of these are going to be open-ended at both the top and bottom, or exterior and interior portions, which I really think is a cool touch, and I like the way that plays and complements this dial. The configuration of them is going to be batons all the way around, except at your cardinal 12, 3, 6, and 9 positions, where you do have varied trapezoids that are applied there as well, though it's the same overall finishing. As for the loom, this has a nice application of loom across all 3 hands, as well as for your markers themselves. This isn't going to be one that's a loom monster, but I found it actually performs pretty well and is in keeping with the overall sports style, where it keeps that dressy element not too over the top with loom, but it is plenty legible and functional, so I think that's well chosen. Shifting over to the bezel. The bezel on this, as you'd expect for the sports style, is a fixed bezel. It has a nice raised up portion and then cuts in with a chamfer. And that actually has a sandwich effect where you have brushing that's applied, so that's running the circular around there, then a polish accent, and then you have actually what looks like linear brushing running across the top of the bezel as well. So nice use of texture and finishing there, and I think really encapsulates the overall watch quite nicely. Shifting over to the case on this has a smooth flowing downturn to that, and we'll talk about the downturn more in just a moment. The overall finishing is going to be somewhat of a slab side kind of construction there, and it does have polishing running the length of the case, which of course does in turn make this a fingerprint magnet, which these are always hard to be able to handle without wearing gloves and not showing you nothing but fingerprints. This does have, as I said though, a very nice flow, and those downturns, as you can see, that actually comes very nicely against the case back and really lends to this overall slim profile. Between the polishing as well as just that overall svelte packaging really is quite slim, as we talked about, in only having 10.6 millimeters total thickness. Very, very nice for an automatic movement there. As far as the overall finishing though, we come out to here, and this has what I would describe as pretty substantial lugs. You can see they do have a nice taper to them, so they're not overly bold and I think are in fitting with the style. But at the top, I really like how they have a lot of meat to them close to the case, and I think that gives a very nice, attractive silhouette. But then they do slim that down, so beyond the taper, they actually have this chamfer cut that gets thicker as it runs down the length, and I think that was a great choice there as well. Shifting over to the 3 o'clock side, you can see, in keeping with the style, this does not have crown guard built into that, so the crown just sits exactly as you'd expect for this sports style watch. The crown itself is coming in at 7.3 millimeters, and in keeping with water resistance, it is a screw down configuration. The milling is going to be what I would describe as a coin edge there, and it does have nice signature logo here on the outside, and that is a 3D signature, so you do get nice interplay with that, and I think that's very cleanly done also. Shifting over to the case back. This is a screw-in construction. It does have exterior keyholes. I do prefer when they're inlaid, but overall, it's a pretty basic style there. It does have polishing on the exterior and then brushing as you move inward, and it does have etched in or milled in text running around the exhibition window as well. The exhibition window is sitting atop of what I would describe as a pretty basically decorated movement. It has nice brushing applied to the rotor. I would have liked to see something a little more fanciful, and I would like to see Geneva striping or what have you on the movement as well to have some nice decorations for accent there, but really nothing too bad. It's just not an overall style as quite as elegant as the rest of the watch is. Shifting over to the bracelet on this is tapered from 20 millimeters at the lugs down to 18 millimeters at the clasp. Just like with the Shellback, it does have FEMO end links, which do drape down nicely and have great articulation that we'll see as we move through. The finishing, just like the Shellback, is going to be a flat link bracelet construction. Additionally, it does have the application of brushing running the length of the bracelet, as well as polished chamfers on the exterior. So again, in keeping with the overall style of the watch. This is held in with screws, and if you do need a screwdriver, I will have one linked down in the description. Do encourage you to pick up a quality one. As we already talked about, it has nice articulation and drape across the wrist. As for the clasp on this one is very different than the Shellback. First, it is a butterfly style clasp, but then additionally though, as you're going to see, it has signature and the links, and I like the way that they split that with the logo at the top and then the name down beneath that. I think that's a nice touch. This is, as you would expect for butterfly, going to be a dual pusher there. Once you pop that open, it does have nice machine turning on the clasp itself. Unfortunately, this does not come with any kind of half links or anything along those lines, so I know this is going to be a polarizing aspect. For me, it fits my wrist quite well, and I really think this more elegant approach than the Shellback that we'll look at here momentarily, I think fits this overall design really nice, so I'm glad they did go this route, even though I know not everyone will love it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and actually bring in the Shellback and some other comps to get a better feel for this. So here it is. You can see overall, as far as the sizing and the styling, obviously the Shellback is much more of a traditional dive style. This is much more of a sport style. Both of these, I think, do actually have dress elements to them, whether you're talking about the black enamel, that high polishing on the Shellback, or you're looking at just the overall style and the sport casing on this. I think both of them do quite nicely there. Let's go ahead and pop this open though, and we can check out, just look at this clasp as far as the difference there. Look at how much more elegant this is and how much more keeping in the style than it is with this chunky overall for this. So while on a dive watch, obviously you don't have the same expectations, I do think that was a great choice to change that up. So I'm glad to see that. Let's go ahead and bring in another dressier watch. This is the Zelos Nova. And you can see here, as far as overall sizing comparison, despite the fact that this one is a little bit larger at 39 millimeters versus this, I believe, at 38, they do have a relatively similar presence. In both of them, this is the aventurine version, obviously. Both of them just really classic signature looks. Love both of those styles. And then bringing in another one. This one is a little larger. This is a Dorenzo DRZ04 Mondial. And of course, all of these we have checked out in the past. This one, though, is one that I absolutely love. You can see, of course, different case shape, but you can see, look at how the lugs interplay here. This one obviously is going to be integrated bracelet, so you have a different kind of cut there. But look at that overall kind of profile and silhouette. Just really nice look to both of these. But this just gives you an idea in comparison to a 40 millimeter watch there. All right, so now that we have some comps, we have the specs, we have what it's like to live with, let's go ahead and wrap things up overall with my view of the positives, some critiques, as well as the summary. First, for the positives, we can't talk about the positives and not talk about this dial. I absolutely love the milling, I love the sunburst application, I love the color choices, I love the layout across the board. This is just a gorgeous dial to look at. Can't really emphasize that enough. I had high hopes for it from pictures, and it has absolutely lived up to that in usage. I know it doesn't translate as fully, they never do on camera, but it is really, really nice to look at and to live with. This one is one that I would describe as being a bold look to it as far as with the mill lines and those kinds of things. However, it's really cleanly applied across the board. You know, it isn't too in your face, whether you're looking at the colors or you're looking at the overall patterning. I think it nicely walks that line where it's not too over the top, but still definitely gives you plenty of things to look at. The case is very nice and slim, wears great because of that, and I think, again, is in keeping with that style. And as a result of the slimness as well as the bracelet articulation, very comfortable on wrist. This is one that I happily wear all day long, no complaints there at all. Really like that. This, to me, this is pretty much a perfect sports watch. I have other ones as well that I love, like that Dorenzo that we just looked at. But this one, I think, you know, it checks all the boxes you want. The fixed bezel, the decent proportions where I think it is large enough for most wrists, while at the same time being small enough that you can wear it for dressier or on smaller wrists as well. So I think very versatile there. And then finally, the pricing. I think the pricing is quite reasonable. This is coming in at $649, which I know isn't the cheapest in the world, but with the Salida movement, the overall finishing, the milling, all those kind of things, I actually think you get a lot for your money, so I really can't complain there. As far as some negatives, though, there are some aspects that I would like to see changed. Specifically, a critique would be the date window. I personally would have absolutely preferred if they had gone color matched for this across the dials. You know, that's something that's always somewhat of an aesthetic choice, but it doesn't really match with the loom, it doesn't match with the dial itself, and it just draws your attention to it in a way that I don't think it needs to. I actually wouldn't mind if they did a no-date version of this just for that overall cleaner aesthetic. I don't mind the date, but I would prefer color matching. The end links. We talked about this in the Shellback, and I'm going to talk about it again. I don't love with the way that this sits. Female end links, great for comfort, but looking at the aesthetic, on smaller wrist, I don't love the way that it creates that ledge and has that drop. I think they could have accomplished this. They wouldn't have had, I talked about in that one, to go with a male end link. They wouldn't necessarily had to go that route, but they could have possibly raised this up higher or some way modified that to where it would have just had less of that step lip, which for me, it's a very minor thing, but it is something that I don't love the aesthetic there. I do think it breaks it up. And then for the butterfly, you know, as we already talked about, this is going to be polarizing. I know there's plenty of people out there that's a non-starter to have a butterfly clasp. I really think it fits the design well, and I don't mind it, just as I didn't mind it on that Mondial. So as long as it fits you, I think it's great. One way that they could have gotten around that is I would have liked to have seen them do half or 3/4 lengths to where that way you could have adjusted the sizing in that manner to get a little more fine tuning that you don't otherwise have with this. But like I said, for me, it fits me nicely, and the weight isn't such that even if you do have a little bit too loose of a fit, it's not going to be jostling around too much on your wrist, so really not too bad there either. So where does that leave us overall? You know, I talked about with the Shellback that I had wanted to check it out forever, and I absolutely loved it. it's no different with this. This Windseeker I've been tracking throughout its progression, and you really was hoping that it wouldn't let me down, and it hasn't. I absolutely love this one. I think the styling is great. I think the overall fit and finishing is excellent. It's a pleasure to wear. Just across the board, can't say enough good things about this. Tusenö, with the last couple watches that we've looked at here with the Shellback and this Windseeker, both of those, I think you're really getting watches that have an expensive look to them without the accompanying price tag. In that respect, I hope they keep delivering. So there you have it. I hope this has been an enjoyable look for you. If you did like this, please do tap that like button. Additionally, if you haven't done so already, please give that subscribe button a tap. And most importantly, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Which color is your favorite? I know the blue was the most popular. This black doesn't get a lot of love, but I gotta say, I really actually like this. It's been kind of nice to have. It's a little more subdued while still having that great look overall. So I hope this has been enjoyable. Thanks for watching.